What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Zamboni. I am a musician and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. As always, I thank you so very much for being here with me. Thank you for coming out to the stream with me, where it is beautiful all of the time. I come out here all year, and it's warm out here now. So thank you for coming out here with me. Thank you for hitting on my Venmo, Cash App, PayPal if you like this content. Thank you for sending it to a friend. Thank you for checking out the music. Did you know that there's a music video on YouTube that is great, that I'm very proud of? I'm very proud of the band for having come so far and making this sound possible. Did you know that there is a bunch of music on Spotify, Tidal, Pandora, Apple Music, wherever you get your music at? Did you know that there's a podcast in those very same places, wherever you get your podcast at, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube or whatever? We just did a quarterly forecast with Palace Augustine and Cameron Allen. It was really nice. Thank you for checking those things out. Thank you for rocking with me throughout this time. Let's talk about the astrology of the week ahead. So this week this is one of our busy weeks, right? We've got a lot going on and maybe not a lot of understanding about how to deal with it. Or maybe, I don't know if understanding is the right word. So here's what's going on. So primarily we've got, on the one hand, we've got Mars and Venus in Leo. And they are hanging out together in Leo, just charging into battle, doing war god things, right? So we've got Mars here, just doing all the Mars stuff, charging in, cutting stuff and being loud and really, it's vivacious in a certain kind of way, passionate, exciting, right? There's a lot of heart stuff there in Leo. Also, Mars is the kind who wants to get the heart pumping in the first place and make things sweaty and hot and this kind of thing, right? Venus is still there with Mars, and so we can see stuff like morale being high and being excited for the possibility, oh, if we win this battle, then it's going to be so good. It's going to be so good for all of us and for our people, or whatever it is, right? Whatever the battle is for you, right? The battle in your heart, for your heart, this kind of thing, right? Then we can see that these two, who are still hanging out together in Leo, are making a square to Uranus and Taurus. So this looks like it wants to pop in some way. It looks like things want to sort of blow up. It looks like, maybe there's a little bit of a landmine or something like that if they're charging into battle and something like this, because Uranus is surprising. There's something unexpected about the Uranus situation, right? So it's you're going, and then whoa, something else happens, and it sort of throws a wrench into your situation. Now, Mars likes a good wrench, right? Mars likes it when stuff is blowing up and when there's this kind of excitement. Mars and Leo can get really excited about this kind of thing. It's a little bit like when you're out at a street fair or something like that, and a fight breaks out, and you're like, oh shit, fight, right? It's that kind of situation where you're there's an excitement to that, right? So there's that on the one hand, right? There's this exciting, volatile, chaotic, disruptive kind of energy that feels fun even. Then, and so, and with this Venus, we can also think about man, why do I like it when people fight? Or why do I like it when people fall down? Or why do I like to see bloodshed or something like this, right? So all of this merits strong interrogation, especially because we're coming into this Venus retrograde. So Venus is going to make the same aspect to Uranus 2 more times. We're going to see the backward square to Uranus, and then we'll see a next forward square to Uranus as well. And so this is going to take place over a long period of time. Venus retrograde is going to have a lot to do with desire and reevaluation of desire and reinvention around your sense of self and whatever is going on in your heart and this kind of thing, right? There's an underworld journey that's on the way. Currently, Venus is still upper worldly. We can still see Venus in the sky. I highly recommend, I say this every week, I highly recommend checking Venus out after sunset in the western horizon. Venus looks great in the sky right now. Mars is right there as well. We had a lovely moon conjunction last week. Did any of y'all see that? Leave me a comment if you did, because wasn't it great? Anyway, so this is, on the one hand, this is what we have, right? On the other hand, we also have Mercury moving out of Gemini this week. So Mercury is moving out of Gemini and into Cancer, and is going to be hanging out there with the sun. In fact, we're going to get a Mercury cazimi this week, which is to say that Mercury is going to join the sun. Cazimi is an interesting word now, especially with all this Leo stuff going on, because the word cazimi means in the heart of the sun. So whenever we see a Mercury cazimi like this, especially this is the forward Mercury cazimi, right? So we're going to be, I typically think about like clarity, or some kind of like it wants to say the thing. There's a kind of like speaking directly to whatever it is, right? Because especially Mercury getting close to the sun like this becomes combust, so we can't see Mercury in the sky and this kind of thing. So whenever there's combustion going on, then it's like the planet is going through a kind of purification process, and it makes it difficult for that planet to sort of enact its significations in the world and this kind of thing, right? And so then there's all of this maybe static in the signal and all this like difficulty for Mercury to do its thing, until this moment when there's this like really precise cazimi moment where we have this sort of like speaking straight to the heart kind of situation. Now this is really interesting because this is going to happen as well as a sextile to Jupiter in Taurus, as well as a trine to Saturn in Pisces. And in fact, at the same time that that's happening, the moon is going to be in Scorpio as well. So we've got a grand trine between Cancer stuff. We've got this Mercury cazimi in Cancer. We've got the moon in Scorpio. We've got Saturn in Pisces. And then also the moon in Scorpio is opposite to Jupiter in Taurus, who is sextile to Saturn and Mercury cazimi. So there's this like really dynamic moment here, which looks really cooperative in one way, and it looks so whenever so a grand trine in water. So water signs are typically associated with some kind of emotional capacity or something like this. Like there's a strong feelings component to it. If we're thinking about like Mercury in a water sign, right? So Mercury is the one who wants to communicate, speak, and listen and understand and this kind of thing, right? And so if we think about going underneath the water and then trying to speak in that realm, it's difficult, right? Mercury is said to be mute in a water sign, and that's because it's like hard to speak and understand in that environment. At the same time, it's very easy to hear things in the water. Sound travels better in the water than it does in the air. And so there's something here that is really good for listening, for understanding, for like getting like a kind of like visceral, bodily felt understanding, in the way that like if you're in a dream, then you can just know something about one of the characters in your dream, and it's not necessarily evident once you go back. You're like, I don't know how I knew that, but like I knew it very deeply, this sort of thing. This kind of understanding makes a lot of sense with this Mercury cazimi, which is also going to be there with Saturn in Pisces, which is super dreamy and like like the pressure of the deep sea, right? Like we've seen that come up a lot in the past couple of weeks. So that has been a thing. And so that deep sea, outer space kind of feeling, at the same time as Jupiter in Taurus, who wants to sort of like build something and make something nourishing out of it, right? So this looks like a lot of fun here. If you're into especially the kind of like psychonautic stuff, this looks really good for that. But at the same time that Venus and Mars are making this square to Uranus, and we've got underworld dynamics, this then looks a little bit outlandish. It looks a little crazy. It looks like there might want to be a fight around some things. It might be some kind of like understanding that there are people out there who are disagreeing or something like that, and then wanting to make a fight around it or something like this. Like this looks like some kind of situation where it might, what I hope to do for myself, right? Because I keep talking to me every week. What I hope to do is to spend a little time in my heart, in my desire space, and in that space where I'm like, oh, why do I like these things that are like kind of terrible and that harm me sometimes and things like this? And just spend time in that space and come to a kind of understanding, pay some attention, maybe spend some time with a journal or something like this, because we are coming around to like, dreams are what they are in their moment, but then there might be a little bit of time to unpack to understand what that is and to interpret the dream a little later. And so we've got months of that coming up. So be with that a little bit. Thank y'all for being here. I'll take you next.